Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
When I played football, I had a coach. I had a lot of coaches, but I had one particular coach who would always say, football's the game of inches. And we'd all be kind of nodding our heads, say, yeah, everyone says football's the game of inches, thinking what he meant was, inches on the ground and, fractions of yards and so on and so forth. But then he would kind of interrupt us and break our thinking machines, if you will, and say, no, it's the 6 inches between your ears. It's, in other words, it's a mental game. It's about getting yourself psyched up and about taking on the person across from you. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. I see that. It is a game of inches, and there's two meanings to that. Well, business is a game of inches as well, the 6 inches between your ears, and likewise networking. Networking is really a game of inches. It's really a matter of overcoming things that are happening in your mind, and also overcoming, not overcoming, but working to get into the minds of others and their 6 inches, if you will. So today's guest, Robert Paris, is the president of Mylan Leadership International, one of fewer than 100 certified master neuroplasticians worldwide. His pioneering Renew method uses neuroscience to develop more self-awareness, confidence, and effective leaders, or to develop more self-aware, confident, effective leaders. He's coached organizations across all sorts of sectors, Circus du Soleil, and he has served as mental training coach for the NHL's Ottawa Senators. He's the author of a book, You versus Your Brain, Reclaiming Your Identity, helping people rewire patterns and access their authentic selves. Robert, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Frank. It's really a pleasure to be here. And I love your opening about 6 inches, because when I last year, when I was coaching the Ottawa Senators, that was one of my major messages, that the biggest obstacle to your success is the 6 inches between your ears. So yeah. Let's get on that. So I love that you started that way.
Well, it was interesting. I had that planned. I don't want to say put hours into planning these things, but I do look at my guests and what they have, and okay, how does that relate to something in my life? And sports has always been a big part of who I am. And when we first got on the pre-record in the green room, if you will, you had asked, hey, do you have a football team? Now, for those listening, we are recording. It is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. This isn't coming out until February, but we're gearing up for Thanksgiving. It's kind of, we're going to get into that period where there's like 45 days of football every day, kind of a thing. So we talked about football. So it was kind of coincidental, but very interesting that we're using football. I don't know if I said it right. Is it Mylan Leadership? Did I say that correctly?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I guess let's start off by talking about this. How did you get into this? I'm a huge fan of brain science, and there's reasons why we do things or don't do things. You heard the intro, and so yeah, give us a little background, if you will.
Yeah, wonderful. Frank, I've been in the leadership development of business for 35 years or so. And 12, 13 years ago, I heard about a field called neuroleadership, which is basically teaching people how their brains work and how to use that information to become better leaders. And I was hooked because, again, the thinking was everything is dependent on our brain, everything we do. How I'm delivering my message is based on your brain. How your listeners are receiving my message is based on how their brains are wired. So I got certified in something called the Foundations of Neuroleadership and started developing coaching, team building, innovation programs, these kinds of things, and started to get a lot of interest from people going, wow, I didn't know that I wasn't in full control of my brain. I guess I'm not. I was totally unaware that my brain often works against my best interest. So I found by some basic educating some of my clients, they were going, wow. And then over time, I developed a coaching process called Renew that you referred to before, which basically educates them how their brains work, gets them to tell their authentic story, going right back to childhood. And then we embark on a process to rewire their brain. So that's been developed over the last 12, 13 years, and the results have been spectacular.
Most good. It's you're definitely passionate about this, and you certainly haven't invested, well, I would imagine money, but certainly time and brain power to the whole thing. Um, in some of the preparatory notes you provided, networking is a brain state, not just a skill.
Right. Yeah. And I mean that a lot. Like, clearly, it's a social skill. There's no doubt about that. But I think even more so, it's a neural state. And why? So let me use a story maybe to explain that. So take
Yeah.
Brian. Brian is 3 or 4, 5 years old, has loving parents, but the parents are, arguing about money. There's some marital difficulties. Mom and dad are too busy to attend football practice, and on and on. Now, as an adult, Brian looks back and says, no big deal. But as a 3, 4, 5 year old, those are actually major threats to Brian's survival. So Brian's brain subconsciously developed messages such as, I'm not good enough, or life isn't fair, or don't trust people. There's thousands of them, but those are some of them. So these get subconsciously embedded in Brian's brain, carries over into adolescent years and into adult years. So all of a sudden now Brian is, okay, I've got a networking event. And all of a sudden his brain goes into like alert, because those subconscious messages are basically saying, no, this is a threat. If you're going to go and meet other people, again, my subconscious message is saying, I'm not good enough, or don't trust people. So I'm not aware that those messages are there, but they are. So Brian decides, I'm not going to attend the event, or I'll attend the event with a lot of trepidation. In fact, maybe I'll stay away from most people because he's unaware of what's really driving his behavior. So that's why I say networking, beyond just being, a social skill, is a neural state.
Yeah. No, I was on someone else's podcast earlier, and we were talking about, he was asking me about, best practices for working a room. And I told him, I said, number one rule, show up. Right. And that's where a lot of people lose it. They just don't show up. There's a million and one reasons why they, I got work, it's a long drive. I just don't want to be around people. And they literally talk themselves out of it. And, it's the lottery ticket philosophy. If you never buy the lottery, your odds of winning it are absolutely zero. And I'm not
Yes,
advocating buying the lottery, but I'm advocating well, you're from Canada. What did Wayne Gretzky say? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So
absolutely.
by not showing up at that networking event, you don't have any chance of being successful.
Yes, yeah. And again, I think the complexity is most people aren't aware of the real reason they're avoiding the event,
Yeah.
because all these messages are subconscious. So they tend to make up excuses, as you just said. The weather is not good, or, but there's 1,000 of them. But in reality, what's going on is that the brain is in high alert state, and is really saying avoid, avoid, avoid. So Brian, in that case, might think, yeah, maybe the weather is not good, or I have other important things. But what's really going on is his neural state. His subconscious brain is saying avoid, 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 and that obviously is a problem.
Yeah. It's a huge problem, and that probably holds a lot of people back. Um, Pigeonholes people into careers that they might not love, for whatever reason. Just, well,
Yes.
it's comfortable. I don't have to do that. When you were talking earlier about people having these subconscious messages, one of the things that I have heard often is parents will be chiding their kids, don't talk to strangers. And we
Mhm.
carry that forward, and it's like, okay, you know what? Uh, Robert's a stranger, all these people in this room are strangers, so I'm not going to talk to them. It's a bad thing. And in reality, it's, not the same strangers our mothers were referring to.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's interesting, Frank. The brain is no more than a prediction machine. That's all it is. Some people think when they talk, they're talking reality. No, they're talking their reality, not the reality. So what happens is that when we're deciding to attend a networking event, or if we're at the event and we see a group of people that I want to join, so the decision is made: do I join this group of people? Well, the brain behind the scenes is making a prediction: what's going to happen if I, again, Brian, go and join this group? And based on Brian's life experience, is basically saying you're probably going to get rejected, right? And the brain is all about survival. And to be rejected goes against who we are as human beings, because going back to the savannah, we want to be part of the tribe. And if we walked away from the tribe, that was a threat to survival. So here, if we're at this event, the brain is predicting, no, if you go to that group of people over there, you're going to get rejected. So Brian makes the subconscious decision: I'm not going to approach that group, or I'm going to approach that group but not say anything. And
Yeah.
again, obviously against Brian's best interest, but again, that's the neural state, the brain's prediction machine, predicting something that likely wouldn't happen, but that's what drives Brian's behavior.
Yeah. Another phrase you shared with me, identity and storytelling build neural and social bridges. I mean, to me, I'm a big advocate of, well, maybe it's not the same storytelling. I just think we really connect with people through storytelling, because of what it does to others' brains. If I'm sharing a story with you, as opposed to hey, invest in your 401k, that's kind of an abstract comment. But if I share a story of, my neighbor, I was talking to my neighbor, and my neighbor really has done great thing and has been able to retire early because he invested in the 401k, that's playing differently in your brain.
It is, it's really interesting, Frank, because we are a social species. We have mirror neurons in our brains that connect us with each other, right? We have, when we talk to each other and tell stories, we have a neurochemical, some of your listeners may have heard of, called oxytocin, which
Yeah.
is the bonding, a kind of neurochemical that makes us feel good. So when we tell our stories and bond, oxytocin is released, dopamine, which is the pleasure neurochemical, is released, etc., etc. So what happens even when we try to network, and if we say, okay, I'm going to get involved in the conversation, but I have my mask and armor on, and I'm not really being myself, I'm faking it. I'm just telling stuff, right? People see right through that
Yeah.
and likely aren't going to want to form bonds. But if I show up and say, you know what, I'm going to tell my authentic story. I'm not talking about deep dives or whatever like that, but I'm going to be myself, my values, my principles, and I'm going to tell my story, right? And then I'm going to ask others to tell their stories. There's no better way to form human connection than tell our real stories and establish commonalities between us. And you talk about networking at its best. We've just told our stories, established how much that we have in common. Now we have a bond. We're going to want to connect with each other and follow up after. So in my coaching process, and a lot that I do, my team building process, it's all about telling your story authentically. And I think from a networking perspective, that is really important.
Just to clarify, when somebody's telling a story, if I'm telling a story, am I releasing oxytocin, or the person listening, or both?
Both.
Okay. All right.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
So me
yes.
telling a story, I'm basically, they're having a feel good moment, right?
They are.
They're living that experience, as opposed to just invest in the 401k. Okay.
Yes, Yeah. And then when the other person is telling the story, it's also, wow, we start to bond with each other. And
Yeah.
when we go, I don't know, we're telling our story, for example, and say, hey, I stuttered as a kid. And the other person says, wow, I stuttered as a kid. Wasn't that awful? Yeah, oxytocin is being released because we're sharing something, some pain that we both have in common. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden we have a bond.
Yeah. Well, and that's the word bond is akin to the word tribe, right? You talked about it
Absolutely.
earlier.
Yes.
We have these anymore. We have lots of tribes. We
Yes.
talked about we before we hit record. We were talking about the Packers, right? I mean, people who are fans of the Packers, that's a tribe, right?
Yes.
People who are Republican or Democrat, that's a tribe.
Yeah.
People who collect stamps, that's a tribe. So we all have lots of different tribes we belong to anymore.
We do. There's no question. Again, it goes back to the savannah. We are tribal by nature. There's safety in numbers, and that applies today. It applies in our organizations. We have a lot of safety there. So yeah, we are very tribal by nature, which is good in many aspects, but then it causes problems, right? Because then it goes tribe versus tribe. And that's what's the problem with the world today. We're in too many split camps
Yeah,
where I'm a member of this tribe, I'm going to defend my values and not listen to yours, and vice versa. So we disconnect, and that's causing so much of the pain and darkness that exists in the world. We're simply not talking to each other anymore. And we've got to stop that. We've got to start listening. I have, Frank, an expression that I say curiosity before judgment. So when I'm with another person and I might start again, my neural state is like, wow, Pete over there is wearing a green shirt. And I had a bad experience with someone with a green shirt when I was a kid. So all of a sudden, I don't like Pete for no
right.
good reason. So I start to judge him, right? And everything that comes out of his mouth has a negative connotation. But if I stop myself, if I train my brain to say, do not judge, listen, and then be curious. Pete may have said something I disagree with, but okay, Pete, I'm interested in that. Don't necessarily agree, but why do you have that perspective? So curiosity before judgment will build bridges big time.
Interesting. Um, Along those same lines, I heard a political commentator on the news, it was a podcast program. Basically, he's talking about somebody else, and he said, "I'm willing to bet that if we both had full access to information, we would agree."
Yes.
Basically admitting I don't have complete access, they don't have complete access. We're both reasonable people. That's our tribe, reasonable people. If we both were dealing with the same information, we would agree. And he's not saying you would agree with me or I would agree. We would come to maybe a middle ground with things.
Right. And the information. So if Brian is dealing with Pete, Brian again is in his brain, and in his brain are past experiences, a lifetime of past experiences. So when Brian is talking, it's based on his life experiences. Pete has different life experiences, so he's talking from his life experiences. And while there's some commonality in those experiences, there's a lot of differences. So we tend to focus on the differences. Pete can't understand Brian's perspective and vice versa. But again, if we got curious and we asked about, wow, Pete, that's really interesting that you said that, I'm curious, and listen. And that's the key, to listen intently, to try to learn something. Wow, I didn't know that. That's not in
Yeah.
my life experiences buried in my brain, but understand what you're saying. And if both can do that, we start to connect and have access now to this wider body of knowledge and experience.
Shifting from defense mode to connection mode. That's
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think the vast majority of people out there approach networking events in general, even dating or all kinds of things, in a very defensive mode because of the fear of rejection. That is huge, 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 huge. Again, a survival threat. So when we attend these events and we're in this defensive mode, we're clamming ourselves up. We're not open. We're closed. We're trying to detect threat. Oh, somebody just said that, I better back away. And again, if we approach it with curiosity, with wonderment and open, and if I go to that networking event, instead of feeling defensive, I'm really curious. What a cool thing. I'm going to this event. I want to learn.
Yeah.
I get the opportunity to meet these other people, have different life experiences, and I can come away with this event with so much knowledge, so much learning. What a great thing. And I'm going to attend this event with curiosity. I'm going to suck up the knowledge. I'm going to give as much as I can, right? And thus, after the event, I now have real bonds that I've established with people that we're likely going to hook up with each other. But then when it comes to the next event, it's not going to be a threat. It's going to be, wow, I get to do this again. I want to do it. Yes.
It's almost like we're building a muscle.
The brain is a muscle.
Yeah. Well, neuroplasticity. I mean, that's the basis of that, correct? Is essentially we're altering aspects of the brain. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but we get comfortable with things that were once uncomfortable.
Right. And we used to believe the brain is in a fixed state. After a certain age, particularly when we got older, the brain was fixed. We now know that's not true. And the neuroplasticity of the brain basically says, if we have enough motivation, we can expand our brain. We could build new neural circuits. We can learn new things. We can actually look forward to doing it. That's the beauty of what neuroscience has taught us over the last couple of decades, that we can indeed expand our brains due to its neuroplasticity. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, no, to me, it's optimistic, right? To hear that, okay, the brain is fixed once you're whatever age, 25 or whatever age they had, it's like, well, okay, there's nothing I can do. I just have to live with this. But to know that, I hear people say, well, you can be, learning things into your 90s. It's like, that's optimistic. It's like, I am not done. There's things I can be doing. So I love this. Let's shift gears here quickly. Mylan Leadership International. Well, you've got the book, You versus Your Brain: Reclaiming Your Identity. People go out and grab a copy. How can people help you? I mean, certainly buying your book, and you'll make 25 cents a copy or whatever. I don't know what. It's not a lot, right? It's not a lot. So
no, we don't push our books for the money at all. We don't make a lot of money off of it at all. For me, in terms of my book, I have a passion for it because it not only tells my story, but it's based on my clients' feedback that says, Robert, after we went through your Renew process, which is over 10 weeks, it really transformed my life. And on the website, we have all kinds of testimonials, video or whatever. So it really is a passion that says, hey, if you want to understand my work and if you want to transform yourself as an individual, read the book, not because of the 25 or 50 cents I'm going to make, because I wrote it and I'm in practice because I want to make a difference in people's lives. My mission statement is to transform lives. And to me, the more people that read the book or that go on the website or that contact me, there's an opportunity for me to make a small difference. And one of my mottos is, like on my website, is changing the world one brain at a time.
Right.
And I've given up this thing about changing the world, but dealing one-on-one, if we can change people's brains, that is huge.
All right. Best way to get a hold of you, through your website?
Yeah, it would be through my website, yes. Yeah,
that's all right. People, I'll put that in the show notes, but it's mylanleadership.com, mylanleadership.com. So again, that'll be in the show notes. So
great. Wonderful.
Thanks for coming on here today. I appreciate your time, appreciate your insights. I've learned some great stuff.
Thanks, Frank. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do this, and hopefully some of your listeners picked up some golden nuggets today.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.